Well, we got a box now, and we need to be able to divide this up so that we can have a bank of drawers and a drawer and a door below on one side. So what we need to do is put in a vertical petition that will get dovetailed into the top and the bottom, and then a long horizontal drawer divider from side to side that I'll locate in a certain distance down and put dovetails in there. Okay, I got my top rail, my bottom rail, and what I need to do is find the center. And I'm going to mark that and then check it from the other end, make sure it's the center. That looks pretty good. So I'll put a center line across that. Now, we're hoping to have that petition evenly divided on either side of that center line. This router jig that we're going to use is nothing pretty. It just has to be a functional jig that has a fence with a piece that sits up against the edge of the work piece, and the router will be running against the fence. We just have to make sure that this edge is square so that we make a nice square cut. Now, the first thing that we have to do is set the router bit to the depth that we want it, so we can get the narrowest part of the dovetail cut, so it'll make it easier to line up the jig to the marks on the leg. Now what we'll do is measure this distance and be able to split that over the center line that we just ran to be able to make our cuts on the top and bottom rail. Now all we need to do is line up those two lines with our scribe lines. It's the same procedure for both the top and the bottom rail. That looks pretty good. Now what we'll do is do the layout for the horizontal drawer divider, top drawer divider, so we can go ahead and cut those. We'll measure down from the top of the leg. Now that we have the dovetails cut for this long horizontal drawer divider at the top, we need to go ahead and lay out the dovetails for the drawers. We also have to lay it out on this petition as well, so what I'll do is lay out the marks onto the leg and then transfer them to the petition. Now in order to get the marks onto the petition is down from the top by this distance here. I'll just pick that dimension up with my combination square. I'll measure down from the top, put a little nick in here, and that's where the top of my petition will need to be. So the marks are now on both pieces. Now I'm going to spin this around so that I'm routing into the front edge of the petition so that it won't have any tear out, or if there is tear out, it'll be on the back. You notice that I also cut mortises in the back edge of the front rail, and these are to put kickers in so that when you pull the drawers out, you know, the drawer doesn't drop down and everything goes spilling out of the front of it. So why don't we go ahead and apply some glue and start gluing this up. I'm going to go ahead and put some glue in the mortises to begin with, and I run a little bit down each side here. And I'll spread that. I'll go ahead and apply a little glue onto the tenon here. Making sure that that lines up pretty well at the top. Drop these down. Five and a 32nd. So that's good and square now. I'll let the glue dry a little bit, and then we'll capture a dimension for the shoulder-to-shoulder dimension for the male dovetail joint. Now that the structure is glued up, I can place my petition up against the joinery and take a measurement from the existing length. While I'm cutting this petition to length, I might as well cut the groove in the back to accept the plywood panel that will divide the cabinet in half. Now to cut this male portion of this dovetail joint, what I need to do is to set the router table, or the bit in the table, to the same height as the depth that was cut for the female portion, as you can see here. Where the router bit comes through the tabletop, if I lined that up with the fence, that should theoretically be where my adjustment needs to be. This is really a trial and error process. Now I can tell this isn't going to work because I still have a flat spot on here. So I'm going to bump the fence over just slightly and make another cut. One thing you have to remember is the amount that you move it over, and you make 2 cuts on it, so you're taking away twice that amount. That's just about perfect. Very nice. All right, we'll cut it on our parts. Now, I want to leave this setup for the 2 bottom dividers. I'll be able to cut them on the table saw and then come right over here and then cut the dovetails on the ends of those as well. Now that I've cut the dovetail on the end of the petition, since I have the long horizontal drawer divider cut to length, I can cut the dovetails on the ends of that as well. Okay, now I want to check this for straightness, and it looks like we got a little bit of a bow in it. Actually, it's not too bad. Let's check the other side. A little bit, maybe. If we needed to spring this in any direction, if you use one of these reverse clamps, the way that I have it set up, you can put this in here and this down in here, and if you give a little push on this, you'll be able to straighten this in order to get the correct dimension. That looks pretty good. So now I should be able to take a direct measurement for my lower drawer dividers up against here, and then I'll take a left-handed knife and give myself a length. Well, since we're here, we might as well lay out the lap joint for the long drawer divider. By tapping this petition a little bit deeper, now I can mark out the position of the petition using a right bevel knife and then a left bevel knife. We should be able to put a mark here and spin it around and see if it lines up. It's slightly off, so I'm going to just adjust that so it just splits the 2 of them. Okay, why don't we bring these parts to the saw? We'll cut them to length, cut the dovetails, then cut the edge lap. When we cross-cut these dividers, I go by the scribe line and not necessarily by the stop. These are individual pieces that are custom fit to the opening. It takes more time to set up the dado than it does to cut the actual joint with this saw blade. Now I just route them like I did before. Now I generally like to cut to the lines with a chisel because I find it much more accurate. And I'll come in from all different sides to keep these good and square. Now that we have all the joinery cut, in the next episode, we'll get to glue up the rest of the bench.